Hi everybody, my name is Bo Sanders. I want to talk to you about why I'm so passionate about doing theology in public and why it's not enough for it to be done only in-house at, like, say, congregations or centers of worship or in the academy at institutions of higher learning. So I've taken about 6 weeks off blogging and making these videos because I bought and renovated a house so that I could walk to my workplace. And I'm very excited about that. It's sort of a different picture of ministry, and I want to talk about that. But it's a way of conceptualizing who are you trying to speak to and who are you listening to. David Tracy, who sort of made public theology he's the one who sort of spoke up for it, talks about there being three publics. The first is the wider culture. The second is the church or the local congregation, the community of worship. And then the third is the academy. And you can't let those three things get siloed and not be in dialogue with each other. The discourse needs to be done not only for and with the public, but in public. And so if we allow those things to have their separate conversations, that partitioning or siloing or compartmentalization is actually causing part of the problem that so many of us, I've had the chance to travel lately, and people are really concerned. Probably rightly so. And there's a level of discouragement and even fearfulness about the changes that are happening in our culture, and in some ways feels like we are going backwards. So as I've been doing this renovation, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, some audio books, but I've been having different conversations because I live in a different community now and listening to different people. And it's been a really good 6 weeks, but the entire time I have been chomping at the bit to get back into this internet conversation, this dialogue that I host on my website, and that these little videos are kind of conversation starters. So I've made a little list in my head and thought, each of these three publics that David Tracy talks about, is there something going on in each of them that needs to be addressed that's very timely? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I'll just give you a couple examples from each. So like for the wider culture, we have wars that we are stuck in, longest ongoing wars in American history, but now we have two other looming wars, one in the South China Sea and one in Iran, that we are on the eve of entering into yet more conflict. So that's concerning. We have environmental issues. It's not just weather. There are big sort of global topics that impact people's everyday lives. And then you have this issue of the global politics, the European elections, upcoming American elections. All over the globe, there seems to be this retraction and this defensiveness against the other, the immigrant, the stranger. And so those are just three things that in our culture need to be addressed. And I would argue, theologically, in public, to be informed, these topics can be informed by what we bring to the table with our theological toolbox. Do we have issues within the church? Heck yes, we do. The fact that 81% of white evangelicals voted for Trump and are still his biggest support base, there's something going on there. The mainline churches are in decline, and my own tradition, the United Methodist Church, is on the verge of a split over the LGBTQ issue. And the Catholic sexual scandal continues to go on and surprisingly not only not get dealt with, but sometimes the decisions are made which actually magnify the problem. So that seems to be getting worse. So you've got those three things that we could talk about just within religious communities, not including shootings at mosques and temples and synagogues. We got some stuff we got to deal with. And then there's the academy. And there's important work being done in the academy. And even in my branch of practical theology, in the issues of race, gender, class, and sexuality, there's some really important stuff being done for the 21st century that I am excited to introduce to you or just make available to you and then to be in dialogue about. The other thing I was thinking about the academy is, You know, a lot of institutions are in real financial trouble because of the student loan crisis and its impact on people's job prospects, but also just the sustainability of that model going forward. You have an influx of cash from businesses and lobbyists that's very concerning if that becomes a for-profit model, and it trickles all the way down to our charter schools and our elementary schools and the ongoing segregation that we see at every level of the educational tiers. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. And if you just try and address one issue without allowing other disciplines or traditions to inform that, it may seem difficult to find a way out of it. I mean, one of the reasons you get into the ruts that we get into is because we cycle through the same menu of options. So I love public theology, and I have no interest in doing theology behind closed doors. I want to do it in public. That's part of the public forum for me of the interwebs. So I just wanted to say that starting tomorrow, I'm going to do a series about how meaning migrates. Everything migrates. And when we try and resist that, we run into some very unique problems. Religion can actually be one of the worst examples of it. And so we got a lot to talk about. But I just wanted to tell you where I was coming from, why I love public theology. I want to point you to a resource with David Tracy in case you are interested about why I don't just talk about just the Bible or something. And because I'm not a specialist. I am, in this sense, a generalist. I have an interdisciplinary approach. But it's not accidental. It's not sloppy. It's very intentional. I think that the dialogical nature of public theology allows us to have a mutual informing conversation where we can address issues that are concerning in ways that bring about hope and possibility for change. Let me know your thoughts. I will look forward to re-engaging now that the reconstruction project is over.